Let me tell you a story about two sisters that will make you angry, make you cry, and ultimately make you believe that karma never forgets. This is about betrayal, pride, and the moment when everything you thought you had comes crashing down. And trust me, by the end of this story, you will understand why you should never, ever abandon family when they need you most. Are you ready? Good. But before we dive into this incredible true story, if you love stories about karma, justice, and family drama that teaches real lessons, hit that subscribe button right now. Because every week on this channel, we bring you stories that will make you think twice about how you treat people. Real stories, real consequences, real lessons. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and let's begin. There were two sisters, Ruth and Patience. Ruth was the older one, 32 years old, beautiful, educated, and engaged to a wealthy man named David who owned 3 businesses in Abuja. Patience was younger, 28, a teacher at a small private school, making 70,000 naira a month. She lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in a modest neighborhood. Nothing fancy, nothing to brag about, just surviving. Growing up, the sisters had been close. Very close. When their parents died in a car accident 15 years ago, they only had each other. Ruth was 17 then, Patience was 13. They moved in with their uncle, who treated them like servants. But they survived together. Ruth would protect Patience from their uncle's wife, who made them sleep on the floor and eat last. Patience would cry on Ruth's shoulder when life felt too hard. "We only have each other," Ruth would tell Patience. "No matter what happens, we're sisters. We're family. Nothing will ever change that." Those words. Remember those words. Ruth finished university and got a good job at a bank. She moved out of their uncle's house first. Did she take Patience with her? No. She said the apartment was too small. She said Patience should finish secondary school first. So Patience stayed behind, enduring their uncle's cruelty alone for 3 more years until she also finished school and could finally leave. When Patience got her teaching job and moved into her small apartment, she was happy. Finally, independence. Finally, freedom. She called Ruth excitedly. "Sister, I got my own place. Come and see it." Ruth came. Once. She looked around the tiny apartment, at the old furniture, at the small kitchen, and she smiled politely. But Patience could see it in her eyes. Disappointment. Judgment. Like her younger sister's modest life was somehow embarrassing. But Patience ignored it. Sisters are sisters, right? Then Ruth met David. David the businessman. David with the 3 cars. David with the house in Maitama. David who made more money in a month than Patience made in a year. Ruth changed, almost overnight. She started wearing designer clothes, expensive bags. She stopped taking buses and started driving David's second car. She moved into a luxury apartment and was 2. And slowly, she stopped calling Patience. Patience would call her. "Sister, how are you? I haven't seen you in 3 months. "Oh, Patience, I'm so busy. You know how it is. Planning the wedding, attending David's business events. I'll come and see you soon." But she never did. When Ruth and David got engaged, there was a big party. A lavish engagement party at a 5-star hotel. Patience found out about it on Facebook. She saw the pictures. Her sister in a beautiful dress, surrounded by wealthy people, celebrating. And Patience hadn't even been invited. She called Ruth that night, her voice shaking. "Sister, I saw your engagement pictures. They're beautiful. I wish I had known about the party. I would have loved to celebrate with you." Ruth's voice was cold, distant. "Oh, Patience. It was just a small thing. Very last minute. You know how David's family is. They handle everything. I barely had control over the guest list." A small thing? There were over 200 people in those pictures. But Patience swallowed the hurt. "Okay, sister. I understand. At least I'll be at the wedding, right? When is it?" "December 28th. I'll send you details." But she never did. Weeks passed. Then months. The wedding was 3 months away. 2 months away. 1 month away. Patience called repeatedly. Ruth always had an excuse. "I'll call you back. I'm in a meeting. Things are so hectic right now." Finally, 2 weeks before the wedding, Patience went to Ruth's apartment unannounced. She had to know. She had to hear it from her sister's mouth. Ruth opened the door, surprised and not happy about it. Patience? What are you doing here? Sister, the wedding is in 2 weeks. I still haven't received my invitation. I need to know what to wear, what time to come, if you need help with anything. Ruth sighed. That sigh said everything. Patience, come in. Let's talk. They sat in Ruth's expensive living room. Ruth didn't offer her sister anything to drink. She just looked at her with those cold eyes that Patience no longer recognized. Patience, I need to be honest with you. David's family, they're very particular about image, about status. This wedding is going to be covered by media. Important people will be there, government officials, business moguls, and David's mother specifically asked me to keep the guest list to people who fit a certain profile. Patience's heart was breaking in real time. What are you saying, Ruth? I'm saying that maybe it's better if you don't come to the wedding. I'll send you pictures. We can celebrate privately later. But at the actual wedding, I think it's better if you're not there. The room was silent. Patience couldn't breathe. Her own sister, her only family, was uninviting her from her wedding because she was too poor, too ordinary, too embarrassing. Ruth, when Mama and Papa died, you told me we only had each other. You said nothing would change that. I'm your sister, your only sister, and you're telling me I'm not good enough to attend your wedding? Ruth looked away, unable to meet Patience's eyes. It's not personal, Patience. It's just complicated. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. David's family has expectations. I have to think about my future, my marriage, my new life. Your new life, Patience repeated, standing up. Your new life without your sister in it. I understand perfectly now. She walked to the door, then turned back one last time. You know what, Ruth? I hope your wedding is everything you dream it will be. I hope David's rich family accepts you. I hope all those important people impress you. Because one day, you're going to need family. Real family. And you're going to remember this moment. You're going to remember the day you chose status over your own blood. Ruth said nothing, just watched as Patience walked out. And that was the last time they spoke. The wedding happened. It was spectacular. Everyone said so. The pictures were everywhere on social media. Ruth in her imported wedding dress that cost more than Patience made in 2 years. David in his custom suit. The 5-star hotel. The live band. The towers of cake. The fireworks. Everything was perfect. Patience saw all the pictures. She didn't cry. She just looked at her sister's smiling face and wondered if Ruth even thought about her that day. Probably not. 3 years passed. Ruth lived her perfect life. Big house. Expensive cars. Vacations to Dubai. Shopping trips to London. She was living the dream. She posted everything on social media. Look at my life. Look at how successful I am. Look at how I made it. She never once reached out to Patience. Not on her birthday. Not on Christmas. Not ever. As far as Ruth was concerned, her poor sister no longer existed in her new wealthy world. But then life happened. Life always happens. David's businesses started failing. One by one. A bad investment here. A partner who stole money there. The economy was rough, and David's empire began to crumble. Within 18 months, everything was gone. The businesses closed. The cars were repossessed. The big house was seized by the bank. David and Ruth had to move into a small 2-bedroom apartment in an area far from their wealthy friends. But that wasn't even the worst part. David, stressed and desperate, did something unforgivable. He started an affair with his secretary. And when Ruth found out and confronted him, instead of apologizing, he left her. Just like that. Packed his bags and moved in with his secretary, who came from a wealthy family who could help him restart his businesses. Ruth was devastated. 35 years old. Divorced. Broke. Living in a small apartment she could barely afford. All those rich friends who came to her wedding? Gone. David's family who had insisted on that certain profile? They blamed her for the marriage failing and wanted nothing to do with her. Ruth was alone. Completely alone. The same position Patience had been in years ago. And now Ruth understood. She understood what it felt like to be poor again. To be rejected. To have nobody. She thought about her sister. The sister she had thrown away like garbage. The sister she had deemed not good enough for her wedding. And for the first time in 3 years, Ruth cried for what she had done. She wanted to call Patience. To apologize. To beg for forgiveness. But shame stopped her. How could she face the sister she had betrayed? How could she explain that she only remembered her now, that she had nothing? So she suffered alone, lost her bank job because David's scandal had embarrassed her employers, struggled to pay rent, ate one meal a day, all the pride, all the status, all the wealth, gone. One evening, 6 months after her divorce, Ruth was coming back from an unsuccessful job interview. She was tired, hungry, and hopeless. As she walked into her compound, she saw someone sitting on the steps of her apartment building. A woman. As Ruth got closer, her heart stopped. It was Patience. Ruth froze. She couldn't move, couldn't speak. Patience stood up, and for a long moment, the two sisters just looked at each other. 3 years of silence hanging between them like a wall. Finally, Patience spoke. I heard about what happened. About David. About everything. Ruth's eyes filled with tears. How did you find me? I've always known where you were, Ruth. I've been watching from a distance, making sure you were okay. Because despite everything, you're still my sister. Patience, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What I did to you was unforgivable. I chose money and status over you. I was ashamed of you. I treated you like you were nothing. And I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve anything from you. Ruth was sobbing now, years of guilt pouring out. You were right. You warned me. You said I would need family one day. And you were right. I needed you. I need you. But I threw you away. I threw you away like you meant nothing. And I'm so sorry. Patience didn't say anything for a moment. Then she did something Ruth didn't expect. She opened her arms. Come here, sister. Ruth collapsed into her sister's embrace, crying like a baby. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve your kindness. No, you don't, Patience said honestly. What you did hurt me more than you'll ever know. For months, I cried myself to sleep. I felt worthless. I felt like I wasn't good enough to be loved by my own sister. But I also learned something important. I learned that real love, real family, doesn't give up on people even when they give up on themselves. She pulled back and looked Ruth in the eyes. I forgave you a long time ago, Ruth. Not because you asked for it, but because holding on to that anger was destroying me. Forgiveness wasn't for you. It was for me. But why are you here? Why now? Patience smiled. Because you need help, and I'm here to help you. Come on. I made food. Let's go inside and eat, then we'll figure out what to do next. That night, Patience fed her sister. They talked until morning. Patience told Ruth about her life over the past 3 years. How she had worked hard, saved money, eventually started a small tutoring business on the side. How she now made 150,000 naira a month. Not rich, but comfortable, stable. I can help you with rent for a few months, Patience offered, until you get back on your feet. And I have connections at some schools. I can help you find a teaching job. The pay isn't glamorous, but it's honest work. Ruth cried again. Why are you doing this? After everything I did to you? Because you're my sister. And when Mama and Papa died, you told me we only had each other. You were right then, even if you forgot later. But I didn't forget. I never forgot. We're family. And family doesn't abandon family. Not even when they deserve it. Over the next 6 months, Patience helped Ruth rebuild her life. Got her a teaching job at one of the schools. Helped her move to a better apartment. Taught her how to live within her means. How to find joy in simple things. How to stop measuring her worth by her bank account. Ruth changed. The pride was gone. The obsession with status was gone. She was humbler now. Kinder. More grateful. She had learned the hardest way possible that people are more valuable than possessions. That love is more important than appearances. That family is the only thing that lasts when everything else falls apart. 1 year after their reunion, on Patience's birthday, Ruth threw her a surprise party. Nothing fancy, just a small gathering in Patience's apartment with a few friends. But Ruth made all of Patience's favorite foods, decorated with her own hands. And when everyone sang happy birthday, Ruth stood up with tears in her eyes. I want to say something, she announced. 10 years ago, I stood at a wedding that cost millions of naira. I wore a dress that cost more than most people make in months. I was surrounded by hundreds of people, and I thought I had everything. But I was empty. I had pushed away the most important person in my life because I was ashamed of her. She looked at Patience. This party today cost less than 5,000 naira. The decorations are handmade. The food is home-cooked. There are only 7 people here. But I'm happier today than I was at that expensive wedding. Because the person who matters most is here. My sister. My family. My hero. Everyone clapped. Patience was crying. The 2 sisters hugged, and this time, it felt like the sisters they used to be. Before money. Before status. Before pride destroyed what mattered. So let me ask you something. Who in your family have you pushed away? Who have you deemed not good enough for your new life? Who have you forgotten now that you've made it? Ruth thought she had made it. She thought money and status meant success. But real success is measured by the people who stand by you when you have nothing. Real wealth is measured by the relationships you build, not the things you buy. Real family shows up not at your wedding when everything is perfect, but at your lowest point when everything has fallen apart. If you have family you've abandoned because they're not rich enough, successful enough, sophisticated enough, I want you to remember this story. Remember Ruth, who chose pride over her sister and lost everything. Remember Patience, who chose forgiveness over revenge and gained everything that truly matters. Before you leave this video, do 4 things. First, hit that like button if this story convicted you. Second, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe they're the Ruth who needs to change. Maybe they're the Patience who needs to know their forgiveness matters. Third, drop a comment. Tell me, are you a Ruth or a Patience? Have you been on either side of this story? And fourth, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications because every week we bring you stories about real people, real consequences, and real lessons that can change your life. Remember Ruth looking at her sister's small apartment with judgment. Remember her uninviting Patience from her wedding. Remember her sitting alone in her own small apartment years later with nobody to call. And remember Patience choosing to show up anyway, choosing to help anyway, choosing love over bitterness. Family is not about who shows up when you're winning. Family is about who stays when you're losing. Don't wait until you've lost everything to realize who really matters. Don't let pride destroy the relationships that will sustain you when everything else fails. Be patient with someone today. Forgive the person who hurt you. Reach out to the family member you've been ignoring. Choose love even when it costs you something. Because I promise you, what you give in love never leaves. It comes back. Always. Now go. Call that family member. Send that message. Rebuild that bridge. Before it's too late.